Doug, it's great to see you. We've already shown pictures of you walking around the camp. You went to a memorial service. Can you even put into words what this day means?
You know, I'm really still processing it. We just left and came right here, and it really is hard to talk about it right now. It's very emotional. We were there a long time, and you know, it's like, what did I see? And you see where people were murdered. 1 million people were murdered there in cold blood because of anti-Semitism. And it's the little things, though. They have displays of children's shoes. They have the glasses that they took off of the bodies. They have women's hair. They have all these things that make it so real. And for those folks who would deny that this happened, you know, see what we just saw. It's as real as it gets.
It's so massive. The tragedy is so massive that I've always found it hard to get my arms around it, that this could ever happen. And it's so overwhelming, but it's those little things, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's those little things. I think of Spielberg's movie where there's a little girl in the red coat. Well, it's the shoes, like you're talking about.
And you see within the shoes, there are bits of color, and that's exactly what you're thinking about. And again, these were people. There's one display there where they're showing almost the before and after, where you see these beautiful scenes of people, Jewish people, but what are they doing? They're just living their everyday lives. And then they show this horrific anti-Semitism, and you hear it. You actually hear the voices, and then the third thing you see is death.
By the way, Jewish people, many of whom did not leave, because even they at that time couldn't imagine. Anti-Semitism has been with us for thousands of years, but this was so different. I want to ask you, one of the reasons we're here on an anniversary that doesn't end in a 0 or a 5 is because what's going on in America. Talk about, sadly, the anti-Semitism rising in America.
It's they're not just saying the quiet part now, they're screaming it. And it's almost becoming too everyday, and we can't normalize it, Joe. And that's one of the reasons the administration has been so strong on this. I think the president said in his statement, but he said this many times, he ran for president because of those tiki torches in Charlottesville. Jews will not replace us. And he told me a story before the trip. He took me to the Oval Office, and he's just so passionate about this issue. He told me the story about his own father, who would talk to then young President Biden about the Holocaust and how outraged his own father was, and how he has been to Dachau, his children, his grandchildren.
He took his children, because of what his father said, he took his children to Dachau.
And so we spent a good 20 minutes in the Oval Office before this trip, because he just wanted me to know how important this issue is to him and this administration.
And talk about how important it is to you. Talk about your family. You're going to be going to an ancestral home.
Yeah, it's emotional. I learned just last year, one of the things you get to do as second gentleman, you do naturalization ceremonies. So we went to Ellis Island, and I got to see the ship ledger from where my father's grandfather and his family came from Poland, about 120 years ago. So we are part of this visit, again, to really talk about anti-Semitism and work with our European allies on this, is also to kind of see where I came from. And it's right here, and it's going to be intense, but I'm looking forward to doing that.
It's also, while we talk about where you came from, we talk about Poland. You look at what this town has done in the shadow of Auschwitz, what this building's doing. We're now moving into a synagogue that, of course, is empty, because at the start of 1933, there were millions of Jews in Poland. By the end of the war, tens of thousands, now very little. But this entire place is actually a museum. It talks about the importance of tolerance, the importance of accepting others, the lessons learned.
It's so important to do that, and it's so important to do it on an interfaith basis.
Right.
You know, I know you're so passionate about this issue. A lot of the people that we met today,
right,
the executive director, the tour guide, are not Jewish. A lot of the people that have come up to me to thank me for speaking out and doing this work, supporting the administration's work on pushing back on anti-Semitism, are not Jewish. And they want to work with me and the administration on pushing back because,
right,
again, we see what happens. We saw the history 75, 80 years ago, and we're seeing what's happening today.
Right.
And we've got to push back on it.
This town around us was predominantly Jewish, and this was the synagogue, and we're walking into the main synagogue here. And
wow,
again, it's used now only for those who come from Auschwitz and want a place to come and worship. And what you're reminded of when you're in this town is, unfortunately, what President Biden talked about. It was ordinary people who carried out unspeakable barbarism. It was ordinary people who were slaughtered, and it was ordinary people who were complicit by just standing by. Talk about that. And again, the warning that that sends to Americans today after everything that you've seen in Auschwitz.
Yeah, this is why we do this work. And this is why we have to educate people on what the Holocaust is, what it meant, what anti-Semitism is, what it meant, and what it can mean. And it's this banality of evil that they talk about. And we have to push back on it. And that's why I always say we can't normalize it. Anytime we hear it, we've got to call it out. And there has to be consequence to it as well. We need leaders, and you talk about this all the time. You've got so-called leaders who see this stuff, hear this stuff, and they know better.
Right.
And they don't say a word.
Right.
They don't say a word because some lack courage. So we cannot have that. This is not a both sides issue. There are not two sides to the Holocaust.
Right.
There's not two sides to anti-Semitism. We all must speak up and speak out and be aligned on this so we can avoid what we're seeing right here, what I just walked out of, and what we're seeing today. We cannot have it.
So we're here in Poland again, in the shadow of this place where unspeakable horrors were committed. Is there any final words you'd like to say to the Morning Joe family from Poland about what you've seen, what they need to be aware of?
Let's just make sure that this doesn't become just a once in a year story, or only when we hear these horrible instances of anti-Semitism that we're seeing. This needs to be all the time. You know, I am here for the marking International Holocaust Remembrance Day, but we need to remember it every day. And so I'd ask your viewers, you know, there's so much going on all the time, and we get caught up in all these things. That's one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about doing this work on behalf of the administration. Yes, there's lots going on, but this has to be front and center, because if we let this hatred, this epidemic of hate, just keep spreading, it's going to affect all of you out there. It's not just about Jewish people. It's about all of us.
All right. Second Gentleman Douglas Emhoffem.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you so much for doing this.
I greatly appreciate it.